Alright, Shalom. I'd like to say all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Kodesh. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who are the true leaders of Israel today. And salutations to all of the Akim who do this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedoms to do so, as well as the scattered Israelites who come with an heathen, but are not by way of their forefathers' seeds, for Israelite men. The true name of the Most High is Yahweh, and his son's name is Yahushai. And the Lord's holy chosen people are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, as they are the ones who suffer under the curses in the book of Deuteronomy. My name is Akalio, and I'm a prophet sent from Yahweh Shemishai to let you all know of the things that are coming, to let you all know of the Lord's prophecies, and to let you all know of the Lord's mercies and the Lord's judgments, which are a part of those prophecies. And we are very clearly at the end of the rulership of the so-called white man, who are the biblical Edomites, whose forefather is Esau. All right, this is their vile, wicked kingdom, and they, the Edomites, they're the wicked. All right, and you know, they have their blessing that they're living through right now, which is very close to coming to its end, which is the fatness of the earth, the dew of heaven, and by the sword will he rule. All right, and he's using that sword right now, his blessing right now, as America has decided to strike Venezuela. All right, now this is big news, the latest, biggest, hottest news right now on the planet. Okay, all kinds of things are happening, man, and Bible prophecy is at the forefront. Now, before I talk about the Venezuela situation, we have some prophecies that are on the table. You have the prophecy of the mark of the beast, which is the microchip. This is the main prophecy that we look towards right now, because the other three main prophecies to come cannot occur until the mark of the beast prophecy is fulfilled, where that microchip is made mandatory worldwide. Okay, so you have the mark of the beast prophecy, the main prophecy to keep eyes on. So while everything else is going on around the world, you keep watching for that. All right, you have the prophecy of the return of our Lord Yahushai, which is a simultaneous event with the ICBM missiles heading towards America to destroy. So America is going to be destroyed by thermonuclear fire. And then you have as well, at that same point, with the return of Yahushai, the deliverance of the elect of the nation of Israel from America and around the four corners of the earth. And then you have the kingdom of heaven, which is a kingdom that will be led by Yahushai through the spirit of his father Yahweh, a kingdom which is the kingdom of the Israelites. All right, a kingdom that will be governed by righteousness and holiness and peace. All right, for the Israelites, for us. All right, so this is what is on the table, but also the prophecy of World War III is on the table. You see, right now we're living through the build-up of these prophecies. Right, World War III, that's a part of Bible prophecy. We're seeing the build-up of it right now that will eventually lead to the so-called Middle East, which is Western Asia. You have the build-up of these other prophecies. Jacob's trouble, for example, is already here. It has already started. It just hasn't reached its peak. Okay? So we're in the midst of these prophecies right now. The famine, the pestilence, all of these things, man, are at hand. And in 2nd Esdras, chapter 16 and verse 37, it says, "Behold, the plagues draw nigh and are not slack." And what are these plagues? The plagues of judgment coming from Yahweh Shemishai. Right? So you have the plague of the famine, the pestilence, the plague of the sword, which that is going to be amplified. Esau, right? His blessing is that sword, and he's going to be thrashing that sword about in the most violent way in these final days. All right? And he's going to be doing that to bring chaos to the world, to establish their new world order. This is what is at hand. Okay? So they're going to do whatever it takes, man. And this is a part of how they operate. They say that, never let a good crisis go to waste. Order out of chaos, order ab chaos. And they create these situations, and then they bring about a solution to them. Okay? But that sword, which Esau is the Lord's sword, let me get that, is going to be thrashing about very soon. Psalms Psalm 17 and verse 13. Arise, O Lord Yahweh, disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword. So the wicked are the Edomites, or the so-called white people, and they are the Lord's sword. They have been a whipping stick upon us, the nation of Israel. All right? But that is all coming to an end, and Esau's in his last days, his last moments of rulership, so he's going to be acting out like a wild beast. All right? So those plagues include the sword, right? And that sword comes in many different ways. The sword is essentially something that can destroy. All right, you have all kinds of weaponry that is that sword. All right, so you have the plagues that are coming. I mentioned the famine, the pestilence, the sword. All right, just general trouble, chaos. All right, the collapse of the monetary system, which is going to bring great chaos to the world. All right, and don't forget all the judgments from the Lord, such as the earthquakes and the wildfires and all of the tsunamis and the hurricanes. All these things, man, these are the spirits that are created for vengeance that the scriptures talk about. All right, spirits created for vengeance, they come in different forms. Ecclesiasticus chapter 39 and verse 28. There be spirits that are created for vengeance, which in their fury lay on sore strokes. In the time of destruction they pour out their force, and appease the wrath of him that made them. Fire and hail and famine and death, all these were created for vengeance. Teeth of wild beasts and scorpions, serpents, and the sword punishing the wicked to destruction. All right, so, reading these spirits that are created for vengeance is, these spirits that are created to destroy, bring judgment. All right, and they come in different forms, in the form of wild beasts and creatures to, fire and hail and storm and whatever else. They shall rejoice in his commandment, and they shall be ready upon earth when need is, and when their time is come, they shall not transgress his word. Right, because everything is in perfect order. All right, Yahweh Shemi Shai controls all spirits. All right, and so you have spirits that fulfill the will of the Lord on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side. The right-hand side is of righteousness, and the left-hand side is to do, the wickedness, right? But that's the duality of our power, okay? So there are angels that are set to bring about these things. All right, so these are the plagues that draw nigh. Let me go back to it. 2 Ezra 16 and verse 37. Behold, the plagues draw nigh and are not slack. Right, with these plagues, these judgments that are imminent. Okay, I mentioned some of them, but there's more to come. Right, you have the plague of the microchip, which is the mark of the beast. That is a plague. All right, that's a plague that that plague is going to lead to any of you Israelites that take it to destruction, right? And that is going to be the result of the plague of the death by way of the thermonuclear fire, the ICBM missiles. All right, but even before that, it is going to be a plague upon you as it pertains to Revelation chapter 16 and verse 2. All right, where it's going to be a cancer sore, right, and a pus for those who take the microchip. So that is a plague, man. All right, that will affect you, and then you'll be destroyed and judged for taking it, right, by way of those missiles. That would be the final plague. All right, death by thermonuclear destruction. Okay, so we have these judgments that are at hand. And it says, as when a woman with child in the 9th month bringeth forth her son, with 2 or 3 hours of her birth, great pains compass her womb, which pains when the child cometh forth, they slack not a moment. All right, so the judgments of Yahweh Shemishai, these plagues, are likened unto childbirth. And we know the process. Once it is that we're in the 9th month, the water breaks. And as the water breaks, there's an immediate alert that the child is coming. The mother feels all of the contractions. She feels contractions, but what happens is that at first, the contractions are spread apart. And then as it is becoming closer to the child being born, the contractions happen more frequently. They become closer together, and then they're also more painful. So these plagues, which are not going to be slack, which are these prophecies that draw nigh, right? They're going to be hitting back to back to back, popping off like popcorn, boom, boom, boom. All right, once the dominoes start to fall, the rest of them are going to fall, and the dominoes are starting to fall. All right, that's clear. All right, when you look at the times that we're in, when you observe what's going on and measure it by way of Bible prophecy, that is clear. All right, so then it says, even so shall not the plagues be slack to come upon the earth, and the world shall mourn, and sorrow shall come upon it on every side. So it says, even so shall not the plagues be slack to come upon the earth. So it is a sure thing to come. All right, as Yahweh Shemishai has been warning you people by way of his prophets that great judgment is coming, great tribulation is coming. All right, and that if you don't repent and return to our power, Yahweh Shemishai, you are going to be destroyed. You are going to face of the judgments that are coming. You're going to take the mark chip, which is the mark of the beast, and you're going to be destroyed by the thermonuclear fire in America. Very serious judgment is coming, man, and we are at the doorstep, which we've been at. So the door is starting to open, and once that door flies open, the floodgates of judgment will be happening, which also, there's another door, right? One door is opening, but another door is closing. And the door that is closing is the door of repentance, all right? That spiritual ark that is being built right now for the elect of the nation of Israel, and those of us right now, we're of the hopeful elect, we hope to be saved, all right? That door of mercy is going to be shut very soon, which has been a warning that has gone out for decades unto the children of Israel. And out here in Jamaica, you're predominantly of the tribe of Benjamin. All right? So the Lord has been warning his people around the four corners of the earth for decades. And now the time is coming. Now we are in the year 2026. And 2026 has started off very big. But 2025 had many things happening. 2025, when you look back at it, it laid a lot of the groundwork needed for prophecies to be popping off, because everything happens over time. Things gradually build up to their climax. Okay? And that build up has happened very swiftly in 2025. So now 2026 has happened, and boom. America has hit Venezuela. All right, so while you people were out there partying and doing whatever else, going about, your daily lives, thinking that everything's going to be okay, America has decided to hit Venezuela, which we're going to be seeing the ramifications of that very soon. Actually, right now, I believe that Trump is going to be addressing the world as to the situation in Venezuela. All right, now World War III is a part of Bible prophecy. This is Revelation 11 and verse 14. The second woe is past, talking about World War II. And behold, the third woe cometh quickly, which is talking about World War III. So World War III is a part of Bible prophecy, and World War III is on the brink of happening. All right, all of the major players, from America to NATO and the EU, to the state of Israel and Russia, Iran, and Russia's allies, all right, the Lord has been putting the Spirit upon them to get ready to go to war. All right, so things have been building up, going from last year to now, today. So let's observe what has transpired in the past few, even just the past 2 weeks. All right, maybe two plus 2, maybe 3 weeks. The middle of December, from December 12th. All right, so World War III, that prophecy is at hand. The UK rapidly developing plans to prepare for war. So the UK announced that war is coming. Al Carnes has warned of a shadow of war at Europe's door, as hostile intelligence activity against the UK has jumped by more than 50% the past year. All right, so the UK has been warned to get ready for war. All right. Now, even before all of this, there has been a situation between Russia and Ukraine, the state of Israel and Iran, the state of Israel and Hamas. Okay, just last year, with tensions rising among all of these world superpowers and relationships breaking apart, such as the relationship between Turkey and its current alliance, and also NATO and the EU with America, which these things that are occurring are biblical, right? Prophetic, okay? But you then have, let me see if I have it in proper order. December 26, 2025, it said European NATO nations openly preparing for war, Belarusian defense minister. So the US-led military bloc is building up its forces in Eastern Europe, Viktor Krenin has said. So they're building up and preparing for war over there, right? So then there has been war over there, the so-called Middle East, over there in Europe, and now war has started over here in the West, right? The West, over here in the Americas and the Caribbean, with America attacking Venezuela. So there are many different points around the world that you see war brewing up. Don't forget Africa, all right, with the whole Sudan situation. Don't forget Taiwan and China with that situation. So war is starting to build up around the world, all right, which spells trouble for the people, the inhabitants, right? Because war brings about many different things, okay? Especially famine. But it says here that the leaders of European NATO countries are making no secret of the fact that they are preparing for war against Russia, all right? So NATO and the EU, they're preparing for war with Russia. So the Lord is putting the Spirit upon these heathen to go to war. Okay? So in the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 13 and verse 31, it says, and one shall undertake to fight against one another, one city against another, one place against another, one people against another, and one realm against another. Right? So this is what is brewing up, man. World War III. All right, where the different one city against another, right? One place against another, one people against another, and one realm against another, man. All right, the different countries being roused up by Yahweh Shemin Shai to, you know, attack one another, which this is what is happening, right? And let's not forget as well, Ukraine attacked Russia, specifically Putin at his residence. So things are really heating up, man. And the way things are, I don't foresee it being like times before where you'd hear about things and then they'll pull back, and then for several months or even years, all right, things will slow down. Right now, if you realize what's going on, things are continuously happening, right? Things aren't slowing down, all right? Despite what people, you know, you people out here in the world, you don't pay attention to anything that's going on except for the next hot party or the next hot song or whatever distractions there are out there to distract you with, all right? There's a lot going on around the world pertaining to Bible prophecy, all right? So let's talk about the Venezuela thing, and then I'll bring out the other information regarding the buildup of this World War III. All right, so Venezuela has been attacked, and apparently, you know, and take note of it, Esau decided to strike Venezuela in the night, which is one of their tactics. They attack in the night when people are sleeping. So, you know, with persecution coming, y'all know what it is, man. That's how they usually strike, in the night when people are sleeping. Okay? But this situation with Venezuela, we're going to have to see what is going to transpire of it, because this is literally breaking news. All right, I'm building up. Right? Trump to make his announcement. Which is coming up live, but you know, we're going to have to see what is going to transpire from this situation regarding what moves are China and Iran going to make, because they are allies to Venezuela and they have a lot of invested in Venezuela because of the oil, right? Which China is not going to take kindly to their oil supply, and also Russia. So we're going to have to see how that builds up. But the Lord is putting the spirit upon these heathen, man, to go to war. And in the book of Matthew, (24) and verse 3, it says, "And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world?" So firstly, the end of the world. People will interpret it as, oh, the end of the world that we're standing on. No, the kingdom of heaven is going to be here on earth. Okay? What it's talking about is, when you go into the Greek at G165, it says the word aeon. So the Greek word aeon is talking about a period of time and age. So it is talking about the end of an age, right? The end of the world, the end of an age, which it is talking about the end of the age of the rulership of the so-called white man, of the Edomites. We're at the feet of the statue of the vision that was given to Nebuchadnezzar, that was interpreted by the prophet Daniel. We're at the feet, man. So once the feet are finished, that's it, man, for the statue. What's next is the kingdom. All right? This is the end of Esau's kingdom, man. So the Edomites are in rulership and would be in rulership before the start of our kingdom, right? As it says in the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 6 and verse 7, then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times, or when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth? The end of the first. And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. Right, because Esau was the firstborn of the twins, Jacob and Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So, Esau is the end of the world, talking about the end of an age, the end of the rulership of the dominion of the Edomites, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So, the end of Esau's kingdom is the beginning of our kingdom. And Esau's in his blessing right now. Right? That blessing given unto him by our forefather Isaac, the fatness of the earth, the dew of heaven, and by the sword will he rule. And his dominion and his rulership was always just for a little bit of time. Right? In the book of Revelation chapter 20 and verse 1, and I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit, which is Europe, and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, which is talking about the Edomites, these so-called white people. Alright, and as you can see, the Lord refers to this nation of people, the Edomites, these so-called white people, as the dragon and the old serpent and devil and Satan, right? As he is these things, okay? He's the adversary, he's the deceiver, all right? He comes in that same old spirit of the serpent, of deception and guile, okay? And bound him 1,000 years. So this happened after, so the Edomites, right? They had Greek rulership and Roman rulership, right? But then the Lord bounded them for 1,000 years, which was, you know, during the Byzantine Empire, the so-called Dark Ages. And then it says, and cast him into the bottomless pit, which is Europe, and shut him up and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, and after that he must be loosed a little season. So Esau, the so-called white man, came back into rulership during his Renaissance period, and then it is during this Renaissance period in 1492 up to this point now, where the fullness of his blessing kicked in, where he had the fatness of the earth, the dew of heaven, and by the sword will he rule. All right, he's always used the sword, right? But full dominion of the earth, he didn't have it during our Greek captivity and the Roman captivity, right? They had, when you look at the history, they were a powerful force, but they didn't have dominion over the earth as they do now. So this is Esau's blessing, the fullness of it, right? So it says, and after that he must be loosed a little season. So he must be loosed a little season, which speaks to that it comes to an end, right? That little season comes to an end, all right? And it is coming to an end, right? The prophecies, the sign of these end time prophecies are the signaling of the end of the rulership of the Edomites, okay? So Esau is the end of the world, talking about the end of his rulership, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So our kingdom is coming next, okay? So going back to Matthew chapter 24 and verse 3, and as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? So what are the things that we shall see before the return of Yahushua? Okay, because Yahushua is returning at the end of Esau's kingdom. Okay? And Yahushua answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Hamashiach, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. So we shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. This is literally what is happening right now. We've been living in this period of time for a bit now. Okay? Because we've heard of many wars and rumors of wars. Hearing about things are gonna be escalating between whatever world superpowers and stuff like that. But the scripture also says, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. So actually, not only will we hear of rumors of wars, but we shall hear of wars as well. And right now, the situation of Venezuela, that is hearing of war, right? Which this and the other wars that we hear of, from Ukraine and Russia, to with that actual skirmish situation, to the state of Israel and Hamas, and the state of Israel and Iran. You know, there have been certain things to happen. So these are the wars that we've been hearing of, right? And there has been the rumors of them. But all of these situations that are occurring are contributing to the prophecy of World War III, which will eventually reach its the fullness of it. Because we know, based off of Bible prophecy, that World War III isn't going to happen in Venezuela or Ukraine or in Russia or any of those places. World War III is going to take place in the so-called Middle East. That is where Yahweh Shemishah is going to be gathering them together. Alright, so what we're seeing right now is the build-up of these world superpowers, of these little skirmishes of war that is going to lead to that place over there in the so-called Middle East. Okay, so it says and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. So it says, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And this is what is happening, man. All in real time. Okay? So I'm actually gonna stay in this Matthew 24 for a little bit. But let me get other news of the war building up. Okay, so you have Iran, who is going to America, right? Babylon the Great, and went to Trump. Netanyahu went to Trump about possible new strikes on Iran, right? And that was 2 weeks ago. But then as recently as December 29th, just a few days ago, Netanyahu to ask Trump for more strikes on Iran. So the state of Israel is bloodthirsty in attacking Iran, which, when you understand Bible prophecy and know Bible prophecy, automatically you know what's going on, okay? Because Bible prophecy states the involvement of the state of Iran and America and what is going to happen. So in Jeremiah chapter 50 and verse 45, it says, therefore, hear ye the counsel of the Lord Yahweh, that he had taken against Babylon, which is America. And his purpose is that he had purpose against the land of the Chaldeans, talking about the Edomites. Surely the least of the flock, talking about the tribe of Amalek, which is a tribe of Esau, right, which is talking about the small hats, the Ish people. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. All right, so the least of the flock, which is the state of Israel, they're going to draw America out to war. And what we're seeing is that right now, literally, where Netanyahu, who represents the state of Israel, is pushing Trump to attack Iran, right? The least of the flock shall draw them out, draw America out to go to war, okay? Which then you're probably saying, well, America is striking willingly. Look at how America just struck Venezuela, yeah? But that's the nature of the Edomites, and that's their blessing, the sword. Esau has always been doing this, okay? Striking nations for whatever motive they have, okay? But what's going to really happen is that this state of Israel is going to draw out America to go to war over there in the so-called Middle East. All right, and then it says, surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. So they're going to lose. We already know the judgment. America is going to lose World War III. Because right now, you can see it in real time where the other nations are starting to hate America. Okay? And what America has done by striking Venezuela, right, which apparently it was unauthorized by the American Congress and whatever else, Trump just did it. All right, it is showing that America, it's not governed by any law. America just does whatever America wants to do. But the scriptures say that America is the hammer of the earth. All right, it goes about doing whatever it wants to do. Right, it says Jeremiah chapter 50 and verse 23, how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations? All right, so America is the hammer of the earth. All right, going about just doing whatever America wants to do. All right, but with these movements taking place, the other nations are becoming upset with America. All right, America already has its allies. I mean, its enemies already looking at it sideways, obviously. But then you also have its own allies starting to look at it with squinted eyes. Okay? What's really going to happen for World War III is that America is going to have one main ally, which is the state of Israel. Because according to Bible prophecy, America's own allies, NATO and the EU, they're going to turn against her. When that will happen, we will see. All right? But we know by the end of World War III that it would have occurred because they're going to shoot missiles at America. But right now, as we've been observing, right, the watchmen, the prophets of Yahweh Shemishai, America's allies are slowly but surely turning against her, all right, due to whatever situation that has been happening, but also more recently the situation with Ukraine. That relationship is breaking apart because America has intentionally been leaving its allies out of negotiations, and they don't like that. Okay, so we know based off of Bible prophecy, America is going to lose World War III. Now, I've mentioned the area of contention, so let me get that. Joel chapter 2 and verse 20. But I will remove far off from you the northern army, talking about America, and will drive him into a land barren and desolate, which is talking about the land of Saudi Arabia, with his face toward the east sea, which is the Euphrates River, and his hinder part toward the utmost sea, which is the Red Sea, and his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up, because he hath done great things. So it matches with the Jeremiah 50 and verse 45, where it says, surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. The Joel chapter 2 and verse 20 says, and his ill savor shall come up, because he hath done great things. His stink shall come up, right? So they're going to lose. But the main area of contention where the full battle of World War III is going to be taking place over there in Western Asia, which is the so-called Middle East. All right? So what we're seeing right now is that build up heading towards it. But we're seeing some very critical a very critical build up right now. Okay? Things are escalating, man. And that's clear to see. So now we're going to have to wait and see how the BRICS nations are going to respond. The BRICS nations, which is a part of the alliance with Russia and China are aligned with Venezuela. So we'll see what moves they're going to make. What is the response going to be? Venezuela isn't, I just checked it, Venezuela isn't a part of BRICS, but they're aligned with China. And China has that invested interest in the oil. And then the other day, China revealed on their television, their news, that they showed, what was it? Military drill strikes in the Caribbean, I believe, if anything were to happen with Venezuela. And let me see if I can find that real quick and double check that. Yeah, here it is. On 6 days ago. Okay. It says China's military simulates Caribbean war scenario, sending troops into Cuba and Mexico for battle. Right? President Trump's Western Hemisphere defense posture, including expanded gunboat diplomacy in the Caribbean targeting Venezuela and, by extension, Cuba, is disrupting Venezuela to Asia oil flows. A U.S. foreign policy move that has angered Beijing, which is China. This friction was indirectly signaled by Chinese state media on Friday, December 27th, which aired a segment, or whenever that was, state media on Friday, which aired a segment featuring People's Liberation Army wargaming simulations and hypothetical conflict scenarios in the Caribbean theater. So you see, China was already doing war simulations in the Caribbean. And now Venezuela has been struck. So we're going to see what's going to happen, man. This is some very serious stuff. And then out here in Jamaica, y'all people take this lightly, but all kind of ramifications can start to happen, all kinds of things. Okay? Going back to Matthew 24 and verse 6, it says, "And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows." So, famine and pestilence is on the table, right? And the earthquakes, these are all signs of the end. Right? And actually, just last night, a 6.5 earthquake hit Mexico just last night, right? Which is a sign of the end. And the earthquakes are a very common occurrence. It is a sign of the end. All right? The uppers of the people around the world as well. What happened recently just this week, at the end of this week? Iran, okay, which there's so much to talk about, man. All right, that as I'm talking, things are coming back to remembrance. All right, because Iran, there are protests in Iran, right? Which the protests are a sign of the end. They're uppers of the people around the world. The scriptures say to measure the time diligently. Let me get it. I don't have it. Bro, I don't have an Android charger. It's me out here doing this. Nah, my Bible is in my bag. I don't have no charger, sorry. Huh? You know, you got some spirits out here, you know. Anyway, I was talking about Iran, right? So Iran, right, the state of Israel has been pushing, right, to strike Iran with America, which I read Bible prophecy states that they will do that, but Iran plays a very important part. Now, the protests going on in Iran, right? The protests are a sign of the end, okay? With the protests going on in Iran, we have heard, what was it, yesterday? That, or a day ago, that Trump has warned Iran that America will invade Iran if any harm is made to the protesters in Iran, which is very interesting because it's coming off of these past, 2 weeks of the state of Israel pushing America to strike Iran. But now Trump is saying that if any protesters in Iran are face any kind of attacks from the Iranian government, that America is going to intervene, which is madness. That is absolutely crazy. Because if there are protests going on in America and any country says that they're going to strike America, if America does anything to their protesters, which America has done things to their protesters, that would be complete madness from the American regime's point of view. But America is able to just say, oh, they're going to strike Iran if anything happens to the protesters, which will be Trump intervening with another country's diplomacy. But America has always done that. America is the hammer of the earth. Esau, when you see these rules and regulations for international law, that doesn't pertain to America and that doesn't pertain to the state of Israel. They do whatever they want to do. All right, and that is clear. All right, they're not held by the international laws that they set in place. Okay, but this is how Esau works. This is how they operate. They're the wicked. So, if America were to strike Iran, we know what would happen based off of Bible prophecy. Now, these kinds of talks are very serious too. Okay. Because we know what will transpire based off of Bible prophecy. So, and this is all contributing to World War III. This is all in the vein of the World War III prophecy. Okay? So, Ezekiel, right, in Ezekiel chapter 38, and verse 1, it says, "And the word of the Lord Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him." Which is talking about the Russians, as they dwell in that land today that Gog and Magog once dwelt. The original Gog and Magog, they're not the Russians, right? They are of another nation. The Russians, they're Edomites. But as Russia is now that land that was once known as Gog and Magog, it is referring to the Russians, okay? So it says, and say, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, I am against thee, O God, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. So the Lord is against them because they're Edomites. They're the wicked. Right? They're no different from NATO, EU, America, and the State of Israel. These are all Edomite sovereign nations. Australia, New Zealand, these are all Edomite sovereign nations. The thing is, at hand, is just that Esau's kingdom is very fragmented. They don't have any harmony among themselves, which you know what the scriptures say regarding that. If a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. So Esau's kingdom is divided. Okay? But then it says, and I'll turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I'll bring thee forth and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor. So Yahweh Shemishai is going to put the spirit upon the Russians to go to war. Okay? Even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. So Russia will be going to war with this great company, which is talking about its alliance. It says Persia, which Persia is known as Iran. Okay? Ethiopia and Libya, which are the so-called African nations, who are the biblical Hamites. Alright? They come from Ham. All of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. So this is talking about Turkey. Alright? And the breakdown is the same as Ezekiel 38 and verse 2. Turkey is now known as Turkey, but it was once where Gomer and Togarmah once dwelt. Right? So it is referring to Turkey. So that's why Turkey is mentioned and observed, because Turkey right now is a part of NATO. But the scriptures say, the prophecy states that Turkey will be aligned with Russia. So when observing Turkey, we observe the relationship between it and its current allies, which that is breaking apart. And it is very greatly fractured, because Turkey has spoken out very boldly, not just boldly, but they are literally against the state of Israel and what the state of Israel has been doing. They have condemned them many times, publicly on the world stage. All right, they've called for international law against them, everything. Okay? But remember this, that the state of Israel is America's #1 ally, and America is set for the defense for the state of Israel. Why else do they spend so much money on providing aid to the state of Israel and defense? Okay? So with Turkey speaking out so blatantly against the state of Israel, right, we can clearly see where it's all leading to, which is a prophecy that Turkey is going to side with Russia. All right, so they're going to break off from NATO and join them. And that spells big trouble for America, because Turkey, within NATO, the #1 military is America, and the #2 military is Turkey. So when Turkey decides to break off from NATO, the EU, and America, and join with Russia on that side, they're going to become very strengthened militarily. They would have gained NATO's second biggest military. Okay? So then in Ezekiel 38 and verse 7, it says, be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. So Russia is a guard unto its allies. Okay? So the first ally mentioned here is Iran. Okay? So with Trump talking about that he will strike Iran. Let me read the exact headlines. BBC, Trump intervention warning over Iran protests reckless, says foreign minister. Right, because America's allies, they've been, you know, with the recklessness of Trump, which Trump is that cruel lord, which has been given over to the Egyptians in the book of Isaiah 19, right? When he's talking about Egypt there, he's talking about America, which America is spiritually Sodom and Egypt, okay? Trump is that cruel lord that the Lord has put over them, the Egyptians, and he's just been doing whatever, which is showing that, you know, which is affecting them, where the relationship between America and its allies are breaking apart, right? And so America is being affected in different types of ways, okay? And so, you know, this cruel lord is setting up America for destruction, all right? All of these moves that Trump is making, man, is leading to America going to war, America being destroyed, okay? So you have these America's allies from NATO and the EU. Their different leaders have come out and they have spoken outwardly regarding Trump's words and his decisions and all these kinds of stuff. So this is just another example where where they're talking about from the BBC. Oh, well, shoot. It is Iran has replied, actually. And Iran has said that it's reckless because any attack against Iran will draw out Russia to go to war. And that's based off a Bible prophecy, right? When it says, and be thou a guard unto them. Russia is a guard unto its allies, okay? So Russia will defend especially Iran. Now, you may be wondering and saying, okay, well, does that mean that Russia with Venezuela and stuff, right? That kind of we will have to wait to see what movements are made regarding that front, okay? Because we have to stick to the script where we know that you have these allies of Russia, that it mentions it mentions Iran, it mentions the so-called African nations, and it mentions Turkey. So we'll, you know, but we do know that Russia has other allies based off of the BRICS nations, right, that are listed, such as India, Saudi Arabia, etc. Right? But we will see what will transpire from this. Because when you look at the relations between Russia and Venezuela, they have some ties, but they're not deep ties. Venezuela has deeper ties to China. All right? So, but regarding Iran, any strike against Iran and Russia is going to defend it according to the scriptures. So when Trump is talking about that they're going to strike Iran, okay, our ears perk up because we know Bible prophecy is at hand. All right, so there's that. So now going back to the Venezuela thing, right? Because that update regarding Iran, that was just like what, yesterday? You know? So so many things are happening, right? But here's the update regarding the strike. Cuba and Colombia respond to US strikes on Venezuela, right? Which they're not for it. We already know the relationship between Cuba and America, right? And now Colombia is speaking against it as well. Because here it is. Caracas has accused Washington of attempting to seize the country's strategic resources and topple the government. Cuba and Colombia have expressed strong concern over an apparent US attack on Venezuela. It's not an apparent, it is a US attack on Venezuela, right? The statements came on Saturday morning after several blasts in Caracas with reports of warplanes, helicopters, and potentially drones operating over the capital. Venezuela's government said it was the victim of a grave military aggression by the US, accusing Washington of striking civilian and military locations in Caracas, which they did. Okay? So Cuban president denounces the attack, and Venezuela is saying, oh no, the Cuban president is saying the zone of peace is being brutally assaulted, state of terrorism against the brave Venezuelan people and against America, right? Because, yeah, it's true. And they say this is how, you know, Esau is the goddamn devil, all right? Because if any other country assaulted America the way that America assaulted Venezuela this morning, last night, America, it would be all over the American news and spread to the four corners of the earth that X country is performing mass terrorism against America. Yet and still America is able to do all these things, and everybody just blinks their eyes and thinks everything is okay. Okay? But these kinds of actions is rousing up the nations, man. Okay? Then you have report from Russia. And this is all breaking news, by the way. It's all happening in the span of a few hours, right? Russia condemns US aggression against Venezuela. So let's see what Russia is saying. Russia's foreign minister has condemned what it called a US act of armed aggression against Venezuela on Saturday, calling for restraint and warning against further escalation. So, okay, so Russia is putting a warning out there. But once again, we're in the time of wars and rumors of wars, okay? Russia reaffirmed its solidarity with the Venezuelan people and supported calls for an urgent United Nations Security Council meeting. All right, so okay, cool. There's a lot to the article, but I was skimming through it to try and find, you know, what is almost, you know, but they're talking out against it, man, okay? And so the nations are getting tired of Esau, man, right? So it says in Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 4, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. So that which is not upright is talking about Esau, the so-called white man, but the just shall live by faith, which is talking about the Israelites, all right, shall live by faith, and faith is only given unto the nation of Israel. Salvation is only for the nation of Israel, all right, and of the nation of Israel, only a remnant will be saved, which is the elect. Yeah, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, right? So the Edomites are proud, and America is their main hub, right? And Trump is extremely proud, right? So Trump, with his pride, just does whatever he wants to do, man. Because I did read reports, and I did mention it earlier, that apparently Trump just did this on his own, all right? There wasn't any official thing by Congress, but all of this is current news happening in real time. So we're going to see how things transpire today and tomorrow and going forward. Neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, right? And Esau, he can't be satisfied, man. All right, that's why they're constantly doing this. They just can't help themselves, invading and raping and destroying and pillaging countries and people, okay? And he can't stop using his sword, which is what he just used, his sword. All right, his military technology and weapon technology and missile technology and whatever else, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb? Woe to him that increaseth that which is not his, how long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay, which is talking about America's debt. All right, because while it is that America is doing all these things, America is in its own terrible situation with all of the heavy debt upon it, which America is going to be experiencing economic collapse very soon. Shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them? Because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee. Right? So this is the spirit that the Lord is starting to put upon them, man. All right, these other countries, all right, and then the heathen, and then even other Edomites in the form of Russia, right? Because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnants of the people shall spoil thee, because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein. All right, so they're going to they're getting ready to fight America. All right, as it says, because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnants of the people shall spoil thee. Right? And so Yahweh Shemishai has given these second-tier nations and third-tier nations nuclear weapon capabilities. Okay? And so that's why you see, when it is that in recent times there's certain tensions happening, that these other nations are speaking of boldly against America. That's why Iran is talking so boldly against America, talking about that would be reckless, because they're ready to fight. Okay, they're not afraid. Plus the alliance that they're aligned with. Okay, so they're no longer afraid of America and America's power. All right, these other nations. And so that's why you see, like China, very recently, on December 22nd, China quietly loads 100 plus ICBMs into new missile silos near Mongolia. All right, so the nations are preparing for war, right? They're getting their missiles, their missile arsenal ready, all right, to go to war. And Russia, just in 2025, developed many different missile technologies, such as the Oreshnik and the Burevestnik and whatever other nuclear missiles, man, which these nuclear missiles are capable of striking America and penetrating America's missile defense system, which we know based off of prophecy they will most certainly penetrate. All right, they shall not be in vain once they're launched. All right, so all of this is at hand, man. And what this war is going to lead to is thermonuclear destruction. But Joel chapter 3 and verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, talking about the heathen, prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Right, and that's what's happening. Right, let the weak say, I'm strong. Countries who before were afraid of America because of the weapon technology that America had, right? Like when they struck Japan, right? All of the other nations trembled in fear. But now in the year 2026, right? All of these other nations, they have nuclear weapons and nuclear weapon capabilities. So they're not afraid. Plus, as the years have gone by, they have strengthened themselves within their alliances. So they're not afraid, man. Right? Let the weak say I'm strong, and that's what's happening. Assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord Yahweh. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat. So let the heathen be wakened, which is Yahweh Shemishai putting the spirit upon the heathen to go to war. Okay? Let them be wakened. Right? As it says in Ezekiel 38, that the Lord says that he will put hooks into thy jaws, spiritual hooks. Okay? So, it says, let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, Yahweh's judgment, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Right? Because they're going to be judged. Okay, one thing about what's going on right now with the whole war and everything. Listen, there are no winners except for the elect of the nation of Israel, and ultimately the nation of Israel. But the elect of the nation of Israel who will receive the victory when Yahushua returns. Alright? Everybody else is going to be judged. Right? So, this whole situation between America and that alliance, Russia and that alliance, and World War III, and the prophecy stating that, you know, America is going to lose World War III and the state of Israel is going to lose against them, and all this kind of stuff, where Russia and China and NATO and the EU are going to shoot missiles at America. There's no victory for any of those people, the heathen. That is victory for us, right? Because at that time, when the missiles are on their way to America, Yahushua is going to return. It's victory for the elect of the nation of Israel, okay? There's no next superpower that's going to come, like China, that's going to dominate, or Russia. No, none of that. All right, once it is that the World War III kicks off in the so-called Middle East, and it hits to its climax of the thermonuclear destruction, that's it, man. The kingdom of heaven is here. Will be here. So Joel 3 and verse 13, put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full. The fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord Yahweh is near in the valley of decision. So the Lord, the heathen, is going to be mutually assured destruction over there, man. Alright, all of those troops that go over there to the so-called Middle East, alright, they're just going to be become a part of the soil over there. Alright, they're not going to be returning. Alright? Those of them especially are parts of the American and the Israeli military. Y'all are going to perish. Okay? So, this is what is at hand. And the missiles were created. So after the World War III happened, okay, where the war is going to lead over there, at the end of it is going to be the launch of the ICBM missiles. And so that's why you see China setting up its ICBM arsenal, getting prepared. That's why Russia is getting prepared. And I speak as a man, I wouldn't be surprised to find out that Iran has their nuclear missiles ready to go, because they're Russia's #1 ally. So, you know, with the state of Israel talking about how, oh, they want to strike Iran because of the whole nuclear capabilities of Iran, they actually may not be lying on Iran. They may be just speaking the truth. And so they're saying they want to strike now. You see? But we're in very exciting times, man. We're in such exciting times that I'm bringing this out, and so much has happened in just the past 2-3 days that I'm jumping all over the place. But it's all within the same spirit of talking about World War III, the missiles, the destruction of America, the end of Esau's kingdom, all of it, man. Okay? Looking to see if there's any more certain current events All right. So regarding the missiles, okay, because we are approaching the end of Esau's rulership, it says in Isaiah 54 and verse 16, behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work, and I have created the waster to destroy. So the waster to destroy, those missiles, man, they were given that Esau, the weapon missile technology were given to Esau by way of their German scientists, all for the purpose of their own destruction. All for the purpose of, because the missiles are going to be used to destroy Esau's kingdom, and it's going to signify the end of it as well. They were created to destroy him. Okay? So that's what it's for. And then the part that Russia is going to be taking, China, the rest of them, okay, regarding Russia and the missiles, it says in Jeremiah 51 and verse 11, make bright the arrows, gather the shields. The Lord Yahweh hath raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes for his devices against Babylon, which is America, to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of the Lord Yahweh, the vengeance of his temple. Okay? So the Medes is referred to the Russians. Alright, because it will be mainly Russia, right? But then Russia's allies who have the missile technology will be doing it as well. And then America's allies, and since I've mentioned America's allies, let me get them. Revelation 17 and verse 16, and the 10 horns, which is the European Union, these shall hate the whore, which is Salakia, and the 10 horns, which is the European Union, which thou sawest upon the beast, which is NATO, these shall hate the whore, which is America, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So they shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Okay? They are going to turn against America, NATO, and the EU, and they're going to shoot missiles at her. America is going to be destroyed by thermonuclear fire. Alright, so more about the Medes. Actually, you know, I can just go back to Jeremiah 51. Jeremiah 51, Jeremiah 50, 2nd Esdras, what? 15, I think it's in 16 too. It's all over the scriptures. The book of Psalms, Revelation, Isaiah 13, okay? Jeremiah 51 and verse 1. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, I will raise up against Babylon, which is America, and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me, a destroying wind. What is that destroying wind? It's going to be that destroying wind caused by the ICBM missiles. That destroying wind is going to be a wind of fire, okay? And will send unto Babylon fanners that shall fan her and shall empty her land, for in the day of trouble they shall be against her, right? Against him that bendeth, let the archer bend his bow. So the archer are going to be these countries that are going to bend the bow, okay? Which are going to be the system that, you know, houses the missiles to then shoot the missiles, which are going to be those arrows. And against him that lifteth of himself up in his brigandine, and spare ye not her young men, destroy ye utterly all her hosts. So America is going to be completely wiped out, utterly destroyed, okay? Isaiah 13 and verse 17. Behold, I will stir up the Medes, talking about the Russians, against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Yeah, because once it is that the Lord puts the Spirit upon Russia and the other nations, and NATO and the EU as well, to shoot missiles at America. They're not going to care about the people in America. They don't care. All right? Their bows, and they're not going to care about what benefit America was able to give them. They're just going to shoot the missiles to destroy America. Okay? Their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare children. And Babylon, which is America, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellence, the Chaldees talking about the Edomites, shall be as when Yahweh Shemishai overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, which was by way of destruction of fire. So the lake of fire is talking about the destruction of America, where the elect of the nation of Israel will be in the so-called UFOs, which is the chariots of the Most High, looking down on earth, and will see that America is set ablaze. All right, that is the second death. And all of you that reject Yahweh Shemishai in America and take the microchip, which is the mark of the beast, you will be destroyed by the thermonuclear destruction. All right? And also, before we get to that point, the mark of the beast prophecy has to be fulfilled. Okay? So Isaiah 13 actually talks about that destruction, but I want to go to Revelation, right? Revelation chapter, in Revelation chapter 17, it talks about America, right? It talks about Mystery Babylon the Great, and how it operates and whatever else, and how it came about. And in the same Revelation chapter 17, it actually says that it goeth into perdition, right? That beast goeth into perdition, which means that it's going to be destroyed, right? So in Revelation chapter 18, it is talking about, the entire chapter is talking about the destruction of America, which is Babylon the Great, right? So I'm going to go to Revelation 18. I'll just read it at verse 2. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon, which is America the Great, is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Which Isaiah 13 describes this as well. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, which Revelation 17 talks about this. And the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies, right? And they all have benefited from America. That's why the scripture says that they shall not regard, they will not delight in the gold and silver, because they're not going to care anymore about what America has to offer. Instead, they're just going to shoot the missiles. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, which is the Israelites, that ye be not partakers of her sins. So that's going to be the deliverance. All right, when Yahushua returns, okay, and delivers the elect of the nation of Israel, 1/3 of our people out of America, okay, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. And what's going to be that final plague? The ICBM missile, the thermonuclear destruction. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and Yahweh Shemishai hath remembered her iniquities. Right? Esau's kingdom is ripe for judgment, man. As it says, wickedness have wickedness is overflowing, right? The balance of things, it's too tilted on one end. All right, so wickedness hath exceedingly polluted the whole earth, right? So it's time. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works. In the cup which she hath filled, fill to her double. How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Which, that pride of America is the pride of the Edomites, right? The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rocks, whose habitation is high. Who saith in their heart, who shall see me fall? Right? To paraphrase, but then the scriptures say right? That's in the book of Obadiah, but in Malachi, the Lord says that they shall build, but I will throw down, right? So the Lord is going to throw them down, man. And when it is that America is destroyed, which is also going to be the return of our Lord Yahushua, that is the signaling of it. So she's going to see great sorrow. And what is happening right now is making that time speedily approach. It's only on not December, it's only January 3rd, 2026. And they're already going to war. Which actually, they showed us last month by way of the Economist publication that it showed what's going to happen in 2026. And that's a part of their witchcraft. So anyway, it says, and the kings of the earth, Salakia, therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is the Lord Yahweh Shemishai who judgeth her. So America shall be utterly burned with fire. Okay? Completely destroyed. And the scriptures say that it shall all happen standing. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and live deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning, because they're going to be like, well, all of the things that we benefited from America, oh boy, you know, but, you know, standing afar off for fear of her torment, saying, alas, alas, the great city Babylon, America, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. So America is going to be utterly destroyed in 1 hour. All right, and all of this is going to happen very quickly. The days that we're in, things are going to be happening quickly. So I'm expecting, just as I read, where it says that the plagues draw nigh and are not slack, and it's like enough childbirth, it's gonna be happening back to back to back. Okay, so for us, that means that our salvation is nearer than when we believed. Okay, so we're in some extremely beautiful times, some very yappa times. Okay, and literally as I'm here prophesying, right, brothers are doing videos. The Spirit of the Lord is there, man, working. Because guess what else is coming? The famine of the word. All right, Esau, by way of one of their Jewish representatives of some kind of some top dude, went on to the mainstream media in America and says that they need to start taking control of the narrative on the internet. So, and there are many other things with the whole speech restrictions coming in, heading to Australia, Canada, and America. All right, to the rest of the world, get this word while you still can. Our salvation is nearer than when we believed, as the scriptures said. Okay, and that's just what it is. All right, more to come, more to report on, as the Spirit allows. So that's all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashemi Hawashai, Bahashim Kodesh. And once again, double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom unto the 144,000 doing this work diligently. All right, and shalom unto the men, women, and children that believe. Okay, Yahushua is close to returning. Shalom.